Home Alone, Jingle All the Way, Die Hard, yes, Die Hard. The great Christmas movies are usually shown on Boxing Day, not Christmas Day. The leftover meal that your parents slaved over are eaten on Boxing Day, not Christmas Day. Finishing off that game of Monopoly that Dad fell asleep during on Christmas Day, that happens on Boxing Day. The food coma and the resulting lie-in, that's Boxing Day. Not Christmas Day when Mum wakes you up early to come down and open presents, and you have to come down tired because you spent the whole night wrapping presents until 2 a.m. Boxing Day is an integral part of Christmas, and if you're having to leave home at 3 a.m. to open your shop for the 5 a.m. sales, you're not experiencing any of it. That's why we need to keep shops closed on both Christmas Day and Boxing Day. It won't damage the economy because we'll just have Boxing Day sales on the 27th instead, and the workers will be happier for it. 'Tis the season to be lazy, so I say Boxing Days in boxers.
The trouble is, half the high streets you go down these days are closing down. I mean, there's all sorts of shops closing down. They're full these days of cafes and nail shops. And if you stop retailers opening on Boxing Day, you'll only quicken up, I think, the decline of the high street, which is a very serious thing. I mean, I actually think it played quite a part in the election last year. If you live, you know, I mean, I live in Richmond on Thames, which is quite a rich area, and most of the shops are all closing down. Go to some of the more deprived parts of Britain, and there's hardly anything in the high street. Therefore, you've got to actually try to to get shops to be more affluent, to get them going, and I don't think closing them down on Boxing Day is going to help that.
But putting it on the next day after isn't going to change much.
Well, half the sales if you go around, I mean, I was up in Covent Garden in London yesterday. Half the sales are going. They're already on.
Well, this year there's a shop called Home Bargains, which I'm sure a lot of people watching will have heard of. I mean, I'm a complete and utter addict to Home Bargains. And it's owned by a guy called, a business called Tom Morris. And what he's doing this year, he's giving all his 22,000 employees the day off, paid day off. He's not taking it out of their annual... on Boxing Day. And he's not taking it out of their annual leave. And bearing in mind that Boxing Day is the busiest trading day of the year, if everyone did what Tom Morris is doing, then the next day would have become the busiest day just by rights, wouldn't it? It would just happen naturally.
This is what Home Bargains say, Carol, to our staff. Thank you for all your hard work once again this year. All of our stores will be closed on Boxing Day to ensure you're able to spend time with your friends and family. And to our customers, all of our stores will be closed on Boxing Day this year to ensure all our hard-working staff are able to enjoy the Christmas break. Femi, I think you're right on both counts. I think, and I really do feel sorry for retail staff. Funny enough, I can't remember where I was. I was in a shop one day this week, and the Christmas hours were there. And these poor souls will get one day off. And as you rightly say, that means for some of them up at 5, 6, whatever it might be. So you are right, the staff do. But actually, Greg is right as well because of the impact. And I think you're right. I think the general malaise... And is it really surprising in the general election that so many towns in the north and the Midlands voted Conservatives, with their high streets closing, the concerns that they have about the economy? And I think you're right. So actually, you're right on both counts, and it would be great, but I don't think they're going to afford it. I just don't think we can afford it.
It's not... Boxing Day isn't actually the biggest day of the year because it's apparently 10% more people shopped on Black Friday than Boxing Day.
Can I mention the other lots of groups of people? I think it's fair to say that, you know, lots of people, not just retail workers, have to work
journalists.
Exactly. You know, you're in the newsroom. Can I just read this out very quickly? You know, care workers, nurses, chefs, police, security, kitchen catering, medical, clergy, senior care workers. You know, it's not just retailers.
Well, they work
waiters,
on Christmas Day as well.
cleaners, bar staff, farm workers, midwives. And I'm pleased that, you know, lots of the big retailers are leading the charge. Lidl, Aldi, among M&S, are also, along with Home Bargains, giving the day off. And 100,000 people have apparently signed a petition supporting what you say, which is that everyone should get a day off who works in retail.
But you know, you can imagine there'd be pressure on staff, can't you? That staff would be told that if you're offered time and a half or double time, you would take it, having spent Also, your boss is going to say to you, if you don't work, you might not have a job by this time next year. So there'd be pressure on people to work on Boxing Day.
I'm just impressed to see that you're agreeing with me in supporting a four-day week.
Did you see that statistic? There's a very well-known, very large store in Knightsbridge in London, which I think we all know. And on the first day of their sale, they've worked out if they're a minute late opening, They lose
£1 million.
£17,000 a minute. So every minute they're late, that's 17,000 that does not go through the tills of that large store. So I know that's their sales, but that's the sort of money that, scale it right down to the high street that Greg was talking about, it all counts, doesn't it?
As I say, I sympathise with what they're saying, i.e. people are entitled to have a couple of days off, but I don't think the economics of the high street will allow that at the moment.
Do you remember, Greg, when we were kids, I mean, us three are probably at the right age there, the shops closed at 5 o'clock every single night, the shops
Early
were closed,
closing.
closed
Early
on
closing on
Sundays,
Wednesday.
afternoon.
Yeah.
So, and it was, and Sundays were used to be with your family.
Yeah.
You
Yeah,
had
my
lunch with your
favourite
family.
story at that time was the sandwich shop that used to close for lunch. You thought, what is it? But yeah, no, Sundays were. Well, you remember the legislation being passed? I think it was under the Thatcher government, wasn't it? They passed
But they
legislation
can
that
only
said-
open from 10 to 6, can't they, the large
No,
apartment
it's
stores?
6 hours, 10 to 4 or
10
11
to
through
4.
5. You're allowed
Yes.
6
Okay,
hours.
thank you for your correction.
that's right.
And there's a limit on when they can sell alcohol as well, isn't there?
It's got to be up to the retailer to decide whether to give his or his staff a day off. It can't, I don't think that this is something the state should necessarily impose on the
you're
retail
right.
sector.
Yeah.
No.
And they should pay them properly if they're going to work extra
Yeah, maybe
time.
1.5 times.
Yeah,
you
one and a
know.
half to double time.
Well, they did when they first bought Sunday opening. They did actually have a thing that say you had to pay more, but I don't know if it still exists, does it?
Good question. I don't think it does.
But you know,
And also the whole thing about getting time off in lieu never really works.
No.
We all know that. You know,
No,
you
it's
go
a
to the
real
office
con.
over Christmas and they say, we'll make it up to you. It's like your parents saying, we'll make it up to you, and they're giving
Yeah.
your brother a bigger rubber.
Oh, it still hurts, doesn't it?
Yes.
It still
I still
hurts.
can't get over it.
Yeah.
you know, we've become a 24-hour consumer society, haven't we? For a lot of families, shopping is a social thing to do.
Yeah.
I see them in the
What
shopping
do you do on a
centres.
Boxing Day? Do you go shopping? Or do you have
No,
family
I mean,
buy?
and I'm a shopaholic, and I don't own a box.
So you have family buy?
Yes.
But that is kind of the point, because I mean, it's not just the people who work in the store, it's the fact that us as consumers, I mean,
Yeah.
I'm regularly waking up at I used to wake up at 3 a.m. to make sure I got to the next sales for 5.
Yeah, I have done that.
Well,
I have done that. No, I have.
Sorry, you get up at...
Next,
yeah.
Yeah. No, see,
Well, no,
what,
it's
to
okay.
buy your office wear? What were you shopping
Really?
for?
What did you want to buy so
I think it
badly?
was really cheap.
So what do you do? I mean, on Boxing Day, I almost every year go to football. And a lot of people go to football. But what you don't want to do is drive miles, because the roads are chaotic
Yeah.
on Boxing Day
Yeah.
and the day after.
Yeah. What do you do on Boxing Day? It's a family event.
I
as well.
think what you do on Boxing Day is that you just lie amid the wreckage of the Christmas
Yes. Yeah.
meal with all the wrapping paper and the quality street, watching telly.
That's
And
Yeah.
eat ham.
Isn't
Eat
that
ham
the
and
yeah,
salad.
eating ham
on
and
Boxing
salad?
Day.
I don't think in years past the last 10 that I haven't been making turkey curry by the end of
Yeah.
Boxing Day. You still haven't got rid of the damn thing, so you stir and the
I
smell of
also
curry
make
wafts.
a killer turkey soup.
Do you?
I mean,
Okay.
a really good one.
You would have to, because that doesn't
Yeah.
sound interesting, I've got to tell you.
Turkey soup
no.
is delicious.
Sounds
When they were
right.
poor, the Johnsons,
Yeah,
they,
that's
used
what we lived on.
to, they used to relish turkey soup.
Put it in the
Yeah.
freezer. That's
It
why
was
you
our-
want in the freezer, is it? So you can
Yeah.
put the
Sometimes-
turkey.
all the
Lots of it in the
leftovers.
Sometimes they had a bit of turkey in it when they were really lucky. I'm sorry, the amusement has to end there.